Hello, I'm Tyler Oakley here with 24 seconds of climate reality. Did you know that the tide of public opinion is turning, and increasingly it is turning green? Recent surveys show 61% of Americans believe clean energy should be a high priority. And that's 24 seconds that can change the world.
What can change in a day? A solar array can power a community. A business can embrace clean technology. A nation can vote to reduce carbon pollution. Around the world, every day, people are taking action to fight climate change, enacting real solutions, and already seeing the benefits. Join us as we travel on a journey of progress around the world, exploring the path toward a better, cleaner future for all of us, and how you can help create it. What can change in a day? Our future. This is 24 Hours of Reality. 24 Reasons for Hope.
All right, welcome to hour 12 of 24 Hours of Reality. You know, you guys, I can still remember way back when I first started hosting this back in hour 8. Sure, I was younger then, but whatever I've lost in youth and energy, I've gained in usefulness, right? Thanks for sticking with us here, guys. As a concerned citizen of our planet, I find this event not just educational, but also inspirational. And our theme this next hour is definitely an inspiring one. And that is, the tide is finally turning. Around the world, people are finally taking action and coming to terms with how we can all improve our climate reality. We'll see this hour. We're going to see all of that this hour, along with some great field reports that you guys don't want to miss. And once more, I have the distinct honor of introducing a hero, somebody who I think of as the hardest working man in climate reality, a former senator and vice president, an Oscar, Emmy, and Nobel Peace Prize winner, wow, and the founder of the Climate Reality Project. This guy must be chugging coffee by now, Al Gore.
Thank you very much. Boy, it's exciting to start hour 12. At the end of this hour, we'll reach the halfway mark. And the 12th reason for hope is that public opinion really is changing here in the U.S. and all over the world. And you remember Bob Dylan saying, "You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows"? Well, that applies to the climate crisis. The reality of what is happening is clearer than ever before. Any arguments that the deniers try to gin up with climate science, it's almost irrelevant now because people feel it at a visceral level. From stronger storms to bigger floods and mudslides, deeper droughts and spreading fires, hotter temperatures, melting ice, rising seas, the spread of tropical diseases. People are feeling the effects of the climate crisis in their lives and in their livelihoods. The nightly newscasts now, almost every night, is like a nature hike through the book of Revelation. It really is quite astounding. And as a result, more than ever before, people now are demanding action from their leaders. But there are really two reasons for this shift in public opinion. One is the reason that I mentioned. Mother Nature is speaking up, and Mother Nature's voice is awfully powerful. Tragically, there have been 100 times more climate-related extreme weather events than just 30 years ago. My hometown of Nashville, Tennessee, just 3 years ago, had what they called a 1,000-year rainfall, and thousands of my neighbors lost their homes and businesses and didn't have any insurance against flood because it had never flooded in those regions before. We're seeing places where 2 feet of rain will fall in one day. These 500-year or 1,000-year events are occurring far more frequently than that. Look at the state of California right now, 100% of the state in drought. a huge percentage of it in extreme drought, the worst category. fires spreading throughout the American West. In this city, Superstorm Sandy hit. But my point is not to go through that list, but rather to refer to it as a reason why people really are looking at their hold cards, so to speak, and saying, wait a minute, something is happening here that's very different from anything that has happened before. Right now, as this event is taking place in both northern India and Pakistan and the region of Kashmir, there has been unprecedented flooding. And the environmentalists and the scientists there are telling journalists from around the world this is connected to global warming, other causes as well. But these kinds of events really are having a profound impact on the way people think about climate change. But that's just the first of the two reasons. The second reason for this growing shift in opinion has to do with many of the reasons of hope that we're talking about during this 24 hours of reality event. Because once you decide it's real and we've got to do something about it, the next question is, can we do something about it? If the answer to that is in doubt, if people think, oh my goodness, there may not be solutions, then that produces paralysis and inertia and inaction. And the climate denialists and the carbon polluters take advantage of that and sow the seeds of false doubt, and they have an easier time than they should of just producing that political paralysis and inaction that they really want. But that second question, can we solve this crisis, is now beginning to be answered differently. Because of the great advances in solar electricity and wind energy and battery storage and the new grid technologies and energy efficiency technologies and electric vehicles and the other reasons for hope we've been talking about here, now people have the opportunity to loudly, boldly, and sincerely answer the question, can we solve this, with a yes, we can solve it, and we will solve it. And I believe that there is yet another reason for this shift in opinion. I believe that people are seeing this as a moral issue, and I think that the actions of faith leaders and religious denominations across the board that we talked about 2 hours ago is extremely important in empowering people to define this really as a spiritual crisis. It is an outward manifestation of the inner spiritual crisis. What are our values? Do we place any value on the future in which our children and grandchildren will live? And of course, now that these extreme events are taking place now, we don't even have to go into the next generation and beyond. It's happening to those of us alive right now. But whatever the reasons, there's no doubt that the 12th reason for hope is that the tide of public opinion is definitely changing. Look at this map of the United States that illustrates, sorry about that, the percentage of Americans who believe global warming is real, and the vast majority of these also say it's caused predominantly by human beings, between 75 and 88%. Really quite an impressive lineup, even in these so-called red states. In Oklahoma, 85 to 88%. In Texas, 82 to 84%, and so on. So this is really a significant change in public opinion. Also, 61% of Americans, a huge majority, say that the President and the Congress should place a high priority on the development of clean, renewable energy. So why aren't we doing it? Well, we are seeing some political consequences of this shift in public opinion when we look at state governments and local governments, and we're seeing this in other countries, of course, in an even more powerful way. There has been an effort by some of the large carbon polluters to induce state governments and state legislatures to put a tax on solar panels. And Republicans as well as Democrats are saying, what? That doesn't make sense to us. Because the great majority say that we ought to be putting a high priority on clean energy, doesn't make sense to go along with the polluters' agenda. We are at a turning point, and that in itself is a reason for hope, and it's because of the shift in public opinion. If you look at the opinions expressed by registered voters, they are 2.5 times more likely to vote for a candidate who supports action to solve the climate crisis, all other things being equal. And that is a powerful political reality that is beginning to have a real impact in the political system. When you ask Americans what they would like to see their electric utilities do, 81% say they want them to use more renewables. Interestingly, some of these polls get a big majority of Americans to answer that question, even if they add language that says, would you want them to do it even if it raised your electricity bill? And they still say yes. Of course, it doesn't raise their electricity bills, and in many cases it lowers them, and as solar and wind continue to get cheaper, it will lower them even more in the future. But this is a great new development. 65% of voters under the age of 35 understand clearly that taking action on climate is going to create jobs. And why wouldn't they understand it? They see these jobs emerging. There are more solar jobs than coal jobs in America today. And the renewable sustainability sector of the economy is the fastest growing part of the economy. It's creating jobs at a faster rate than any other part of the economy. And here's a very interesting finding, and this is replicated in a lot of different public opinion polls. You can talk to Democratic voters and Republican voters, and you'll see some difference. When you talk to young Republican voters under the age of 35, what an interesting finding this is. A majority of young Republican voters say they're less likely to vote for anybody opposed to action to solve the climate crisis. As these voters get older and as more young voters come of age, this is an unstoppable trend. And this artificial and debilitating extreme partisanship that now affects public opinion in the United States is going to dissipate. We can already see the beginnings of this. And of course, the public opinion expressed in the form of activism is particularly important. Some people have the mistaken idea. I say it's mistaken, and I'm really not saying it on my own authority. I don't have it. But I say it because social scientists have done a lot of work in this area. They ask, how does the opinion of an entire political group change? And some people have the misunderstanding, according to these social scientists, that you got to change 51% of the minds. Not so. If you have 10% or even a little more who have a different view and are passionate about it, and who become activists, and who are unrelenting in their advocacy of this point of view, that often leads to dramatic change in the opinion of the group as a whole. So these activists around the world, here in Australia, are really making a big difference. And by the way, there's going to be a huge gathering of people deeply concerned about the climate crisis and very anxious to solve it and reap the benefits of solving it, who are going to be gathered in New York City, in this city, come Sunday. And so if you feel strongly about the climate crisis, if you want to solve the climate crisis, if your opinion is that politicians need to listen and stop doing what the polluters want, come to New York City on Sunday. Join the climate march. It's going to be quite an historic gathering. The demonstrations on the White House, I started to say White House lawn, outside the White House lawn, had a huge impact on President Obama's approach to the Keystone XL pipeline and the tar sands. Now, finally, Climate Reality has a number of active programs. One of our programs is the People versus Carbon. Go to this website, People versus Carbon, and add your comments and opinions on the EPA's new power plant rule, the social cost of carbon rule, and the existing power plant rule. We've gathered a huge number of comments. They make a difference when these comments are reviewed and when the regulations are reviewed. The shift in public opinion is the 12th reason for hope.
All right, thank you, Al, for those words, for this event and all that you've done and will do to educate all of us about climate reality and things that we can all do to help. Go to 24hoursofreality.org to dedicate a day of climate action. Today, we're asking everyone to pledge to make a world of difference. Tens of thousands of people have already taken the pledge to dedicate a day of action in the year to come. Today, we're asking you to join them. Here and now, you guys, pledge to take a day for climate action, whether it's voting, marching, or speaking out in your community. What can change in a day? Well, with millions standing up together, what can't? Now, denial never solved anything, and it certainly won't solve the climate crisis. Climate change calls for the sort of can-do spirit that people have always turned to in times of great challenge. And that's why we're spending this 24 hours of reality focusing on the good news, that solutions to the climate crisis exist today, and where people are acting, we are seeing real progress. The fact is, we can solve the climate crisis. Let's take a look.
Carbon dioxide has reached levels not seen in millions of years.
Climate change is here and getting worse.
Extreme weather has wrought havoc all over the world.
It's happening here and now.
We are running out of damage by the water.
So there's been a lot of news about climate change. A lot of bad news, that is. And for the good news?
Right.
Well, there hasn't really been any. Until recently. Today we're facing the hard truth of climate change with the stubborn relentlessness of human will. And good news is happening.
Right. And now for some good news.
Every day, new solutions are emerging. And not just wouldn't it be neat if solutions, real solutions. Our ability to convert sunshine into usable energy is rapidly becoming more advanced and accessible. Which is great because every hour the sun is sending enough raw energy to Earth to meet the entire world's energy demands for a full year. And the cost for clean energy technologies is dropping. Right now, the cost of solar energy is equal to or cheaper than fossil fuel energy in about 79 countries.
I didn't even know there were 79 countries.
And the electric car market is booming thanks to falling battery prices. And guess who likes that?
Who?
All types of people from around the world are starting to embrace renewable solutions. Schools are being powered by clean energy. Financial institutions are realizing dirty energy is a bad investment. And businesses are finding that going green is good for the bottom line. Which leads us to more good news. These solutions are actually working. It turns out that what is good for the environment is also good for the economy in many ways, like reducing poverty, spurring innovation, and creating jobs. In 2013, nearly 6.5 million people were employed globally by the renewable energy industry.
Job creation. Brilliant.
Right. And while other industries are shrinking, renewables are growing as new technologies and capabilities are being rapidly discovered.
And here's some more great news.
This groundswell of support for renewable energy is forcing leaders and governments to take action. The two biggest carbon emitters, China and the US, have made moves to curb their carbon pollution and invest in cleaner energy technologies. And they're not alone. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is convening nations to forge a climate treaty that could unify the world to work together and lower our carbon emissions, transitioning us to a global clean energy society. We all know the bad news. Climate change is here. It's big, it's bad, and it's hurting us and our economies. But the important thing to know is that there is also good news. We have solutions here today, not dreams or wishes, real-world solutions that are ready to go and that are already saving money and improving lives.
Everyone's a winner.
If we rally around this good news and embrace solutions, we can forge the path to a clean energy future and make sure that progress is our new reality.
That's good news. Thank you for watching.
Now that we're all inspired, let's get specific and focus on something we all need to know more about. Millions of people in rural Africa lack reliable electricity. Enter the solar sorority. Women who are driving the emerging renewable energy market in Africa and improving lives along the way. In this report from the field, we witness how organizations are using solar power to eradicate poverty, bringing light and hope to the people.
Governments around the world are taking action to make a positive climate impact at home and abroad. An impressive new initiative, launched by the US Department of State, is helping lead the way. Called the Partnership on Women's Entrepreneurship in Renewables, or W-Power, it hopes to empower women across Africa to become entrepreneurs, deliver appropriate clean power solutions, and in turn help eradicate extreme poverty by driving green growth at the local level.
I'm Wanjira Mathai. I am the director of the W-Power project, which is a new initiative, the US State Department with a group of partners, SSP, India, CARE International, the Greenbelt Movement, Women for Women International. And we're trying to see how we can catalyze the work of these partners who are working already in clean energy, involving women in the entire value chain of clean energy, and seeing how we can make sure that, one, people begin to use clean energy solutions, but also begin to create entrepreneurship opportunities around them.
The daughter of Nobel Prize winner Wangari Maathai. She is helping to lead a revolution in how women in Africa create jobs for themselves in the emerging clean energy economy.
One of the things W-Power is doing is looking at the critical role of women in the clean energy solution, in the entrepreneurship, but also in the proliferation of them, people to use them. And the clean energy solutions go from cook stoves, which are the technologies, to the fuels, which could be around biomass fuels, to solar solutions.
According to the International Energy Agency, globally over 1.3 billion people are without access to electricity, and 2.6 billion people are without clean cooking systems. They rely on highly polluting fire hearths like these for cooking, and dirty kerosene lanterns for lighting. But African women, like Maathai, are working to change this.
The kerosene lantern that was in her home, that's what they use for lighting. So the opportunity, again, to integrate multiple solutions, solar solutions for lighting, clean cook stoves for cooking, cleaner fuels, and more efficient cooking solutions to reduce emissions. That's the integrated approach that we're trying to promote.
Promotion means selling. And what better way than a sorority-like sisterhood appropriately called Solar Sister? Like the successful Tupperware parties of the 20th century, these women sell their products to one another, passing along the benefits by word of mouth and demonstrating the effectiveness of these technologies in their daily lives. Here in Muada, Tanzania, Hilaria Alois cycles to her group on a bicycle she earned by selling hundreds of small-scale solar systems and clean cook stoves.
Kwanza nimejulikana hata Marekani. Nimepata marafiki, vile vile imeniongezea kipato. Na hata ninapotembea barabarani, nimetambulika kwa maana ni mjasiriamali. Utakuta hata sasa hivi nilipotoka nyumbani, una hiki wakati nipo kwenye mzunguko huu nimepigia pia na watu kama wawili wanahitaji sola. Kwa hiyo imenifanya nimekuwa niko busy muda wote.
This is not a giveaway plan by foreign governments to uplift Africa like so many others, but a working business system driven by individual women throughout East Africa. Solar Sister Director Fatma Muzo explains how this innovative solution to Africa's most intractable problems has spread so quickly.
Solar Sister eradicates energy poverty by empowering women and in economic opportunities through clean energy business. Energy poverty in Tanzania and in the African context, it's all about people or communities who are not connected with the electric grid. They don't have power for lighting and even energy for cooking. Previously, she has cows, she has a house, she has farms, but she was not connected with any power for lighting and cooking stuff. For now, since she became Solar Sister, she got solar lamps for her home lightings, and improved cook stoves for cooking. So that's how we help such communities in lifting up out of energy poverty.
Energy poverty is the term used to describe households that lack access to electricity and clean cooking solutions. The only way to light a rural household like Opportunia Williams in Babati, Tanzania, was with kerosene. The US National Institute of Health says this dangerous fossil fuel emits carbon monoxide, nitric oxide, and sulfur dioxide, all of which may contribute to cancer, asthma, or lung infections such as tuberculosis. The Mundi Business Index estimates that more than 100,000 barrels of kerosene per day are used in Africa, and most of that is burnt indoors at night. The US Energy Information Administration estimates that 1 barrel of kerosene produces 904 pounds of carbon dioxide in its emissions. So just the kerosene component of energy poverty in Africa contributes roughly 90 million pounds of carbon dioxide every day. Where some see catastrophe, Solar Sisters see an immense opportunity to cut these harmful emissions, save money, and in turn make people healthier and wealthier.
The demand for kerosene in Tanzanian communities or in the areas where we operate has dropped just because solar lamps has taken the place of kerosene lanterns. So you can find even the demand for kerosene in some families has dropped, and even if you visit them, you'll find that the kerosene lanterns have become old with full of dust. They are no longer useful. They just keep them aside.
Since they started last year, Solar Sister has recruited, trained, and mentored 850 Solar Sister women entrepreneurs who have brought clean energy to over 170,000 people, whilst driving down the petroleum industry's corner on the energy market.
So the integrated solution goes through the solar, and Solar Sister is doing an incredible job of already driving the solar solutions agenda at the grassroots with ordinary women selling to each other solar solutions. There couldn't be anything more powerful than that.
Solar lights change everything, allowing children to study late without dirty kerosene. In some places, the kerosene economy has collapsed completely because so many women have bought lights from Solar Sister entrepreneurs like Teresia Bagoyo.
Yaani nimepata faida kubwa sana. Zile hela ambazo nilikuwa nazinunulia mafuta ya taa zikawa zinanisaidia hata mimi pia kununulia chumvi na matumizi mengine aina mbalimbali. Nilikuwa na watoto wa kwangu tu ndio wazani wako 8, alafu na wajukuu ambao naishi nao hapa ndani ya nyumba hii wako 4. Hizi taa nazitumia kwa kusomea.
Her grandson is studying by the light of a solar lamp that also charges cell phones, which she does for a fee for her neighbors to make extra money.
Yaani wanafurahi sana, wameepukana na koroboi ile ambayo tunawekea mafuta ya taa, mara nyingine imemwagika, mara nyingine imezimika tu, mafuta ya taa yameisha hapa katikati. Sasa namna ya kwenda kuyachukua tena dukani, hela hakuna mfukoni.
The Solar Sisters are also pioneering a new approach to cooking solutions, selling clean burning cook stoves like this one, along with their high-tech solar lighting and power solutions. The stoves use less wood, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and help keep healthy forests standing. The stoves are now their best-selling product, and all the Solar Sisters are starting to use them in their own homes, explains Solar Sister entrepreneur Opportunia William.
Mara ya kwanza mimi nilikuwa na moyo hafifu wa kuchukua. Akachukua dada yangu yuko hapo mbele, ndio nikapata motisha, pamoja na kuwa ni mimi nilikuwa nauza, lakini nilipata motisha wa kuchukua ile jiko kwa ajili ya kuona mfano wa kwanza kwa huyo mjasiri, nilemuuzia huyo mjasiriamali. Mteja, yani mteja.
Now she uses less than a third of the wood she used to.
Nilikuwa napika na mzigo mmoja ule napika siku 2. Lakini tokea nimepata hili jiko, ule mzigo wa shilingi 1000 napika wiki nzima.
This efficiency revolution is sweeping across Uganda, Kenya, and Nigeria. The main problem is keeping the products in stock. Solar Sister entrepreneurs buy stock from Solar Sister and then sell it with a 5 to 10% markup, offering a 2-year guarantee and the after-sales service. Due to high demand, they regularly sell out.
We're seeing the demand outstrip the supply. Once people know these stoves are there, they can't believe they never knew about it. The same thing with the solar solutions. As soon as we get those connections going, because the distance between the solutions and these women is the gap we must fill. And that's where W Power comes in. Because women are getting together and they're telling each other what's working.
According to the Solar Sister entrepreneurs, this year-old project is already transforming their lives and the lives of the people around them.
Nitawaelezea kwamba inatakiwa mwanamke wa Kiafrika au wa Kimarekani awe mjasiriamali wa kuweza kuuza sola mahali popote pale bila uoga, ili wengine wawapate kuneemeka faida ya Solar Sister. Nimeshapanua wigo sana. Sio mimi tu nimekaa na ujasiriamali, nimewapa na wengine faida, ili na wao waendeleze na faida, wapate hela kidogo.
Kwanza pesa niliyokuwa natumia kununulia mafuta ya taa imerudi kwenye biashara nyingine. Na faida ninayopata kutokana na hizo Solar Sister imeweza kubadilisha maisha yangu. Nimekuwa mfugaji wa kuku wa kienyeji na wasili. Na katika kilimo nimeongeza maeneo ya kulima kutokana na hii biashara ninayoifanya.
A lot of people wonder, why women? Why is W Power targeting women? Well, women are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate, by the impacts of inefficient cooking. Women are a strategic imperative for us in the W Power project. It is not by accident. We're targeting women because we know we will succeed.
Shifting opinion isn't just happening at the general public level. Today, national security experts are calling climate change the defining national security challenge of our time. The U.S. military might seem like an unlikely leader in the climate change battle, but in our next report from the field, we learn why they've made action on renewable energy and climate progress a high priority.
In 2009, Operation Free was formed by a group of returning war veterans, first-hand witnesses to the ravages of climate change and instability caused by our dependence on fossil fuels. In the name of national and global security, they vowed to do something about it.
Operation Free started in 2009 when a group of returning Iraq and Afghanistan veterans and some leading national security experts came together and realized that the defining national security challenge that we faced, both for the United States and for the world in the 21st century, was climate change. That climate change was an accelerant of instability, an accelerant of chaos. It was going to make all the problems we had in the world, from refugee problems to political instability to armed conflict, more likely and worse when they happened, and that we had to get ahead of it. We also came together in the belief that we had the tools, the technological tools, human innovation, advanced energy technology, policy tools, the awareness of the national security establishment to confront this challenge. As Operation Free has gained strength, we've also seen a consensus emerge in the national security space among all of our national security leaders, from the CIA to the Pentagon to the White House to the State Department, that climate change is a defining security threat in the 21st century.
No military in the world has a global reach and global requirements like we do. We have to go where the energy resources are and help support stability in the region, things that could stabilize governments, societies, economies. That whole system requires protection.
Today's global energy supply system, especially when it comes to liquid fuels like oil, is highly integrated, highly complicated, and extremely vulnerable to threats. One example is global choke points. Most oil travels on ships around the world, and it passes through various choke points in the world's oceans. For example, the Straits of Hormuz in the Middle East, and the Straits of Malacca in the South China Sea. The vast majority of the world's energy supplies travels through these very narrow waterways that can be choked off by things like mines, deployed by terrorists or deployed by countries, and they can become geopolitical footballs.
We have to look at where's the United States Navy going to be 50 or 100 years from today. We better be thinking about how we're going to do this in perpetuity. Americans by nature, it's in our DNA to look for the next frontier. We have a frontier that's staring us in the face right now on energy.
There's a long history of military innovation breaking new thresholds. The internet, for example, or GPS, they were to solve a military challenge, and it crossed over into the civilian sector.
Secretary of the Navy Ray Mabus took part in signing a contract for the largest biofuel purchase in government history.
Those sailors understand this energy imperative and the operational benefits that they're going to receive from alternative fuels and efficient systems.
In the next 10 years, the Air Force Academy plans to generate all of their own electricity through renewable sources. John Zanone takes us to Colorado Springs, where the Academy is one step closer to that goal.
With the flip of a ceremonial switch, the United States Air Force Academy is a little closer to energy independence. The $18.3 million project was funded by the 2009 American Recovery and Reinvestment Act.
For the Marines of the 5th Naval Air Gun Liaison Company, going green is not just changing into their green camouflage, but also changing the way they power their equipment. The experimental solar panel is designed to power a small military operations center. It's called the GREEN System, which stands for the Ground Renewable Expeditionary Energy Network System.
We can run an operations center off of this system as far as radios, computers, printers, lights.
The same advanced solar technology and battery technology that can power a forward operating base can also power a village, can power a rural community. The same battery storage technologies that work on naval vessels can work for communities around the world. Operation Free has worked hard to support the Pentagon's Advanced Energy Technology Development Program. Everything from backpack solar panels that an individual soldier or Marine can carry to recharge their batteries, but that you could use to recharge your cell phone, to advanced biofuels that can be dropped into a high-performance fighter aircraft with no change to that aircraft's engine. Fuels made from algae and cellulosic products that didn't have to be pumped out of the ground. Those same fuels need to make it to the civilian economy so that you have the option of filling your car with the same stuff that our fighter pilots are filling their aircraft with, that don't come from burning fossil fuels. More and more efficient engines, incredibly sophisticated battery systems. All of these things are being developed by the military and fielded by the military. We're committed to making sure that our civilian policy leaders, and ultimately every American family, can gain the benefits of these technologies. And it's time that those technologies were allowed to scale so that we can all have access to them. That's going to take better public policy, and it's going to take purchasers of energy, like major governments around the world, to make it a priority to help advance and especially to scale these technologies.
Challenges to our energy security, to our economic security, and to our national security. I think of those as wrapping paper around a beautiful golden opportunity. This golden opportunity, it's something that will enhance our quality of life, that will create jobs. This is something that is waiting to be seized if we can muster the political will.
I think it's our destiny to take a leadership role in finding solution sets for food security, energy security, and the things that we are facing as a civilization this century.
I think around the world there's a growing consensus that climate change is a threat we all have to deal with together. I'm hopeful because ultimately, climate change is a problem we may have caused. It may be the product of human technology. But human innovation, human cooperation, and human knowledge are the answer as well. And we have that resource in infinite abundance around the world.
It's time for a reality check from our millennial documentary filmmaker, Vanessa Black, and this installment of Youth Fuel, our series on some of the top carbon polluters and climate change deniers in the United States. Now, in this episode, Vanessa travels to Juliet, Georgia to visit the Scherer Power Plant. That's the largest carbon pollution emitter in the United States, you guys. Vanessa digs into the coal industry claims about something it likes to call clean coal to see what the term really means and whether coal plants today are actually able to capture the carbon pollution being spewed into the atmosphere. And what about the customers who want to make a difference and embrace clean renewable energy that exists now? It turns out that not everybody in Georgia is able to go as green as they might like, despite the great advances in technology. Let's take a look.
Here we are in Juliet, Georgia, home of the coal-fired Scherer Power Plant.
It's the #1 power polluter in the country, burning 11 million tons of coal per year.
You're looking at 50% of our electricity. Coal. Learn more about America's power.
Does clean coal exist? If so, then how is it that this coal-fired power plant is still the top polluter in the country? In this episode of Youth Fuel, we travel to Juliet, Georgia to investigate Share Power Plant and Georgia's power monopoly. Share produces the most carbon pollution in America, but how are they being held accountable for the environmental and health impacts both locally and worldwide? From greenhouse gas emissions to hazardous waste, we are going to uncover the reality of America's nastiest neighbor and discover how their carbon pollutes the planet. I'm Vanessa Black. I'm a filmmaker and an activist. I'm traveling around America to find out more about our biggest polluters and climate change deniers. Do you know how your electricity is generated?
Georgia Power, no? The company? Yeah.
Do you know what generates it?
No.
No, I don't either.
What if I told you it comes from burning coal? Would you be surprised?
Yeah, that sounds pretty old-fashioned.
In 2012, Share emitted 21.8 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. The average coal-burning power plant only emits 3.5 million.
Energy efficiency only makes sense. Why are you going to pay for more energy if you can find more efficient ways to do it and stop using coal?
The nearly $100 billion spent on clean coal technologies have resulted in real environmental progress.
Clean coal is an idea that greenhouse gases can be captured and stored underground. This technology claims to be environmentally progressive, but the fact of the matter is, it will still produce highly toxic materials as a byproduct of its chemistry. So how can this concept be good for the planet? Companies are investing billions to experiment with this technology. However, as of today, there hasn't been a single kilowatt of energy generated by clean coal.
Things that harm society should actually pay their true costs. It's called Pigovian taxation, and we do it with cigarettes. We tax the hell out of cigarettes because of the harm that they do.
Coal seems cheap, oil seems cheap, but it's not really cheap because there are all of these costs that go along with it that we end up paying for in other ways.
Whether it's the coal we use now or the clean coal of the future, no matter how you look at it, coal is harmful. If you had an alternative energy, would you want it?
Yeah.
Of course.
Hell yeah.
I would like solar. That would be my ultimate dream.
But the fact is, Georgia has no choice.
In Georgia, there was a law passed in 1973 called the Territorial Act, and it basically gives Georgia Power exclusive access to selling energy in the state of Georgia. So it essentially prohibits the expansion of solar energy here in this state because Georgia Power has the exclusive right to sell energy here in our state.
A free market is good for the consumer. It allows for competitive prices. At the end of the day, a carbon tax means more choice.
In order for Georgia Power to meet these emission standards, they're going to have to close down some of the worst polluting coal plants. Share obviously is among them.
Currently, the EPA recommends states consider a regional level carbon tax through their Clean Power Plan.
It basically comes down to we're going to have to change the whole paradigm of how we create and distribute energy in Georgia and in the United States. Right now, it's very centralized.
What are some of the other problems with our energy paradigm?
Lawsuits over contaminated water, soil, and air right here in Middle Georgia.
The lawyers filed 13 lawsuits on behalf of 23 Juliet residents, claiming this power plant and this quarry have contaminated the neighborhood.
Can you tell us about your husband and what happened?
He died 12 days after being diagnosed with leukemia. The man 2 doors over died right before my husband did. A friend of mine that lived up the road had breast cancer. The 3 little boys that lived next door had leukemia.
And do people think that it's related to the plant?
I think it is.
There's too many unexplained illnesses. There has to be an explanation of more than they just got sick.
So what does the community say about all these accidents that are happening and all these reports of illness?
We believe it's coming from the ash ponds. They aren't lined.
They found toxins like arsenic, lead, chromium, and uranium present in their air, water, soil, and bodies. They claim the chemicals come from coal ash at Plant Scherer.
By some accounts, the fly ash emitted by a power plant, a byproduct of burning coal for electricity, carries into the surrounding environment 100 times more radiation than a nuclear power plant producing the same amount of energy. This scary fact is one example of why we need stronger regulations. What happened to your aunt? And she had breast cancer, right?
She had breast cancer that her doctor told her was environmentally caused.
So it's very clear that it's hazardous, and obviously something that's as hazardous as coal ash should be regulated. Unfortunately, you know, when you really question a company like Georgia Power or these oil companies, you know, they meet or exceed all state and federal regulations. And the thing is they're right, they do.
The standards that we hold each other accountable for as far as neighborly duties, they apply to large corporations as well, and we believe that they have forgotten that.
Given the power behind the coal industry, we need to keep their influence in check and challenge the status quo. We need to stand up for stronger regulations that protect the environment and us. Join the growing movement to solve the climate crisis and fuel a cleaner future.
Thank you, Vanessa. Wow, this is incredibly powerful stuff there. Now, you guys, this is a very soulful event, don't you think? And we're trying to speak soul to soul about a subject that matters to all of us. So I'm extremely happy to introduce this next performance by one of the most soulful acts in music. Here we go, performing Better Half. Here's Boyz II Men.
There is a special, it's called 24 Hours of Reality, okay? And this particular show is dedicated to stopping global climate change. So we're gonna do a little something special for this particular show. So many people wanna find it, crossing our hearts, wishing and hoping that we see the light without being blinded. Yes, so we can discover the missing pieces. Yeah, when it's all said and done, we will know who's love. But for now, I'm waiting for you now. So I spend forever waiting for something better. I'm running from the best, looking for the better. Lay down your armor, don't try to fight it. No. Can't let this love keep us divided. Cause there's too many reasons why we all need it. So when it knocks on our door, just know it's invited. Yeah. Oh, when it's all said and done, we will know who's love. But for now, I'm waiting for
You guys, there is so much more to come on 24 Hours of Reality, including another of former Vice President and Climate Reality Project founder Al Gore's reasons to have hope. Conversations with World Bank's Dr. Jim Kim, Bradley Whitford, Reed Hunt, Counselor to President John Podesta, and Lieutenant General Russell Honore. More from our green man on the street, Ian Somerhalder, more field reports you need to see, and music from Linkin Park and Jason Mraz, you guys, so stick around. Now, you can see all of the highlights of 24 Hours of Reality starting later tonight at 24hoursofreality.org. As we spend the day looking at the solutions that exist to reduce carbon pollution and how they can benefit us all, some simple questions might come to mind. Like, why haven't we acted to solve climate change? Why not embrace clean, renewable energy? Now, we think those are pretty great questions. And as the United Nations prepares to convene a special meeting of the world's leaders to collaborate on negotiating a new agreement that can ensure a clean energy future, it's a perfect time to pose some questions, don't you think? And who's better at asking those simple questions than children? Well, the Climate Reality Project launched a campaign to hear from the world's young people in their own words, and it's awesome. After all, they're the ones with the most to lose and the most to gain. So it's only natural that they would have a few pointed questions for their leaders. So after this inspiring compilation of young folks from around the world, we're going to see a single submission from a future climate leader from Brazil. Here we go.
My name's Amy Farrah and I live in England.
Hi, I'm Aiden and I'm from Hong Kong.
Hi, my name's Molly and I live in Malaysia.
Hi, I am Mika from South Africa.
I live in Croatia.
I live in Auckland, New Zealand.
And I'm from Brazil.
Brazil.
From South Africa.
From France. From the United States.
United States. From Mongolia.
From Malaysia.
From Dubai.
From Romania. From Mexico City.
From the Philippines.
From India.
From India.
Western Australia.
So my question for all world leaders is this.
And my question to the government bodies is?
My question to the UN is?
And I guess the first thing I want to say.
The first question I want to ask.
My question is? My question.
My question.
My question.
My question.
I'd like to question.
I would like to ask.
I'm asking members of the UN.
Why do you sit here and pretend?
Why are we letting companies freely pollute the atmosphere?
Why are you allowing the palm oil industry to destroy Malaysian rainforests?
Why do global economic policies consistently stimulate and encourage reliance on burning fossil fuels?
Why is there no more emphasis on developing a generation who can take responsibility for the causes of climate change?
Why, in South Africa, a country overflowing with sunlight, don't we use solar panels?
Why not countries with similar consumption formulate region-specific laws and targets for the next decade?
Why not to put pressure on these companies to change their methods?
Why don't governments start creating sustainable modes of transport?
Para preservar o bem mais precioso que existe no planeta.
Why not change our focus, leave animosity and hatred and competition behind?
Why not incentivize people to use energy more efficiently?
Why not invest more resources in communities?
Why not strive to reduce carbon emissions?
Everyone has a stake in what happens to our planet.
The global problem requires a global solution.
It's time to act. So what are you waiting for?
Hello, my name is Pietra and I'm from Brazil, but I'm currently living in the UK. So, my question for the UN is the following. Why are consumers still in the dark about the amount that a product that they choose to buy affects the environment? Why not create a global requirement for companies big and small to clearly place on the product how much that product affects the environment? It can be simply just how much CO2 was emitted into the atmosphere whilst they were making and shipping the products. This would encourage companies to think of more environmentally friendly alternatives. It would also allow consumers to make better decisions on what to buy. Nowadays, it has become a global norm that food products have clearly marked how many calories and fat said product has, even if it turns out to be negative for the product. If we can do that, then why can't we make this happen? Why not?
Today, we're all taking part in a grassroots movement. And, as we're about to be reminded, when the people take on a cause with passion and purpose, they can be unstoppable.
When the Berlin Wall came down, when enough people felt the desire for freedom strongly enough, that grassroots movement suddenly spread like wildfire And the people themselves took the bricks out of the Berlin Wall one by one and knocked them down with sledgehammers. And these seemingly invincible political systems just gave way.
Tonight at the Brandenburg Gate, symbol of Germany's imperial past, the wall is being destroyed. The wall that was built overnight is being transformed overnight.
Many people get the feeling their voices don't matter, that one person can't make a difference, that the money of the special interests is gonna determine the result no matter what. But when enough people join, then it will change. I grew up at a time when there were still laws on the books justifying discrimination against people because of their skin color. And Dr. King, in saying to those who supported his movement and those who resisted, look at the truth.
We will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day.
And when enough people felt that, the world changed. We really are in a similar situation now. The day will come, not too many years from now, when a next generation will look back on this day and time. If they live in a world where all of these horrendous trends that we've been seeing develop get even worse as the scientists warn will happen, they would be well justified in looking back at us in our time and asking, what were you thinking? Didn't you connect the dots? Did you think all the scientists in the world were wrong? You wanted to listen to the carbon polluters instead? Look at what's happening. Look at the fires in Russia, the floods in Pakistan, the drought in Texas. The dots that I want to connect are between recognizing that and speaking up in conversations, winning the conversations, changing the general way of thinking about this, and then getting involved actively. Let those in the political system know that if they think that all they have to do is take money from these special interests and not have to worry that the people themselves are going to notice about it, they've got another thing coming. This movement globally is growing more rapidly than any grassroots movement ever. For all the complexities of human nature, for all the tendencies we have to be pulled in the wrong directions and make dumb decisions, all of us in our lives, we also have the capacity to transcend ourselves. And while it does not always occur at moments of greatest challenge, we can draw upon that capacity. This is one of those times. Truth has its own integrity, reality, and power. And when people shed illusions and look unblinkingly at what the truth of our situation really is and see the choice between right and wrong, that has a force that can break down walls of resistance no matter how high or how strong.
How long? Not long. Yes, sir. Because no lie can live forever. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Because you shall reap what you sow. Yes, sir.
Thank you all so much for being part of hour 12 of 24 Hours of Reality. It was an important hour to participate in because, after all, we learned that concerned and aware people everywhere, just like you, are a key part of the solution to climate change. This hour also wraps up our second section of the show, which is focused on the good news that when it comes to clean energy solutions, people everywhere are getting on board. From businesses to schools and, of course, faith communities of all types, we're witnessing a sea change in which people are understanding the need to transition to a new energy paradigm. Now, in our third section of the show, we'll see how that transition comes with all sorts of benefits. So the time's come for me to leave, but fortunately, I'm going to be passing on the green baton to an excellent new host. namely the distinguished yet annoyingly dashing British television journalist and producer Typhon King of BBC World News and the BBC News Channel. So he's going to be here, as will former Vice President Al Gore, who apparently, like our climate reality, does not sleep. This guy's amazing. So thank you, Al, for your tireless effort, and thank you all for being part of this global event. Don't forget to do your part, you guys. You can make a world of difference. Go to 24hoursofreality.org to dedicate a day to climate action. Have a great hour 13, and please make sure to give Typhon King your full attention. So long.